It is.
Yes.
You'll be able to see the podium on this.
Unless someone standing there and turning the cameras, questions come up.
Well, Sarah can call on him, but he needs to see the speaker. Oh, okay.
Questions, so it's a little bit more in.
Okay, we are ready. Chairman Dennis is not feeling well today, so he is remoted on, and I'll be running this. But if we want to go ahead and get started, I think Sheriff Easter is starting us out today.
Yes, we'll be starting with the Sheriff's Office on page 308 of your binder. We'll hand it over to Sheriff Easter.
Good afternoon. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you for everybody that came to the community update. We appreciate that. So to start off with, I will take you to page 3 of our slide presentation to go over the responsibilities of the Office of Sheriff. For me, in particular, I fulfill all statutory obligations, executive function of the office, direct oversight of 200 sheriffs and a jail administrator, direct oversight of professional standards, direct oversight of the peer support unit, and budgeted staffing table of 557 employees. Detention Bureau has a colonel that does direct oversight of the detention facility and its staff members. We have a colonel over support and administration, which maintains fiscal responsibility and budgetary control of tax-based and grant-funded programs, and then oversight of the support services division. We also have a colonel over the Law Enforcement Bureau, who oversees all sworn personnel, which encompasses patrol, investigations, and judicial services. Just to give you a little snippet of our strategic plan that we worked with WSU on, our strategic goals are retention, attraction, communication, community safety, health and wellness, technology, and future planning. So that's what's inside of our strategic plan that we have started the process of starting to track with some of the things that we are moving on to. Starting with the budget proposal, the Sheriff's Office 2023 budget request. The reason I want to explain this slide to you is you see that it's slightly lower than last year, what our budget was last year. The reason for that is we had senior staff that retired, so that cuts down on payroll. We had one extra pay period in 2022 that we don't have in 2023, so I want to make sure and throw that in for Lindsay because she pointed that out. The main thing is equipment and radios. The radio project is pretty much done. That has all been paid for. So out of the equipment budget, you see in 2022 we had $1,083,000. This year it's only $310,000. So that's where most of the change is come up with. Second is first I guess is our decision package. It's a compensation increase for uniformed personnel. We completed our pay study, which I'll go over here. In conjunction, we worked with finance, and HR was a part of that as well. And so, obviously, the study showed uniformed personnel's compensation remained uncompetitive for today's market. So when we talk about uniformed personnel, that's detention deputies and uniform deputies out on the commission side. This does not include civilian personnel. So what we'll go through here is a package that includes raises, and a part of this is a proposal for longevity pay for all uniform staff, including executive staff. The fund request is $4 million, roughly a little over $4 million. As you can see here in the other slides, if some of you I know were here 3 or 4 years ago when we proposed going back to steps and ranges and that pay increase, we compared ourselves to the same entities, with the exception of Tulsa, who did their own pay study, and now they're not even comparable to us. And so these are the same folks we compared ourselves to 3 or 4 years ago: the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, which is Omaha, Nebraska, El Paso County, which is Colorado Springs, Johnson County Sheriff's Office, Lubbock County, Texas Sheriff's Office, Greene County, which is Springfield. Yes.
We can't see this very well. Sheriff, we can't see this very well, and even the screen. Can you tell us which line is you? Which one is?
The one at the very bottom.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We're at the very bottom of each one of these slides. So if that...
Okay.
Okay.
It didn't print out very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
The Wichita Police Department in Omaha, Nebraska. And what this slide depicts is starting pay, midpoint, and top. And so you can easily tell El Paso County, Colorado Springs, there's no comparison there. They're starting their folks out in the mid-60s. We start our folks out about $42,000 a year. And so as you see with each detention deputy, corporal, deputy, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, you can see where we are compared to other entities, including the Wichita Police Department, who is our biggest competitor. From a law enforcement deputy standpoint, on this particular slide, we're only comparing to this year only. From the study that we did, like year one, you can see that we start out at $20.37 an hour. The next closest is Johnson County at $23.31, and then it's that way across the board. Wichita Police Department starts out at $25.13 an hour. 6 months, which means when they graduate the academy, they get their first raise. Again, WPD, Douglas County, and Omaha PD, they're a union, and so they base their contracts every 3 years, which, again, this is based only on comparisons for this year, not future raises that they'll get over the next 2 years. I know the PD's in the first year of their union contract, which they got 3%, and I think there's other percentages, 4 or 3% in the next 2 years. One thing that we will tell you is, which we did, worked hard on the last pay study to get us comparable for top-out pay. So if you're a deputy for 10 years, you're topping out. We reduced it from infinity, was what it used to be. Nobody was topped out here. To the fact that if you spend 10 years as a deputy, you'll be topped out in 10 years. You can see, if you can see it on your scale there, we meet PD at 10 years as far as when we top out. They have an additional 5 years before they top out, which then they exceed us from there. The big gap is between year 1 and year 8 with the WPD, and then you can see where we compare with everybody else. This is the slide that is, first off, most embarrassing. Second off, is just outrageous to me. When it comes to pay, especially when it comes to starting pay, We are 5th overall in our own county. We are the biggest sheriff's office in the state of Kansas, and we rank below Wichita, Bel Air, Eastboro, and Derby on pay. Wichita Police Department, we've been used to that for years. This is the first time that we've seen that we're below pay when it comes to these smaller communities. On top out pay, we're 4th. So we wonder why people aren't coming to us. This is a big reason why. If they can go to these smaller agencies, not deal with a lot of stuff that we deal with in the county and get paid more, they're going to go there. We lose people all the time, especially out of detention, to these smaller communities. We've lost several people that left to go to Bel Air and Park City over the last year and a half. And a lot of that was pay. And so we have got to be competitive within our own area. It used to be when we did these pay studies and when the county did pay studies, they'd compare us to Derby, and we'd say, well, you can't compare us to them because it's nowhere the same. Well, you can compare us to these other 5 now because you're going to see where we land, and it's not good. The next slide talks about, we broke down everybody that we compared ourselves to in reference to starting pay, start, mid, and top. For detention deputy, corporal, deputy, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. The big numbers are at the bottom. When we compare ourselves to everybody else that we looked at, we're on an average of detention deputies 23% below market. Corporals, which there was only one other department that had the corporal rank, which was Douglas County, we were 10% behind. Detective rank or deputy rank for commissioned deputies was 26% behind. Detectives were 13% behind. Sergeants were 26. Lieutenants were 27. Captains were 33% behind. So when you look at all of that, we're 22.5% behind market value with other Midwestern sheriff's offices, police departments, and even local state police departments and the sheriff's office. This depicts our current plan, currently with no raises. So this is currently what the plan we're on. Again, if you weren't here when we did steps and ranges, we went back to the steps and ranges. Part of the problem that unfortunately this commission is facing is years of pay plans that were based pretty much on a curve. So only so many people could get the top raise, only so many people could get the middle raise, and only so many people got the bottom raise. So some of those folks at the bottom end got maybe a nickel. And it caused a lot of compression. It caused a lot of other issues. We asked for, and the commission granted us to go back to steps and ranges. As long as they get good evals and are doing their job properly, they will go to the next step. In between those steps used to be 5% between each step. If you see on here, when it comes to detention deputy and corporal, where it's down to 4.2 and 4.3, because of us asking for the pay raise last year to retain some of these folks, the $3 pay raise was given to them, but it also adjusted their increase from 5% to 4.3. We were going to ask for monies this year to try to fix that so it goes back to 5%, but as you see, we're already asking for $4 million. So we didn't ask for the additional monies to fix that part of the system now, since those raises were given in mid budget year and those type of things. However, as you see, it's a 5% increase across the board in those steps. The 10.5% that we're asking for would affect the dollar amount in those steps. And I'll cover that more in depthly here in a second. So with the 10.5% increase in pay, this is what those same steps would look like for detention deputy, corporal, LE deputies, detectives, sergeant, which are our pilots, and our forensic investigators are also paid at the sergeant rank, lieutenants, and captains. What you'll see, what I will tell you, what you'll see here is there is a discrepancy, not a discrepancy, we had a hard time getting lieutenants to test, or sergeants to test for lieutenant. because sergeants got overtime. There wasn't a big pay difference between sergeants and lieutenants. Lieutenants take over a lot more responsibility. So the incentive to be a lieutenant was when you got promoted, you got a 10% raise. That fixed our lieutenants. Now we have the problem with captains. And so when we're asking for 10.5% across the board, that's 8% for lieutenants, though. They would not get the whole 10.5 because we're going to scale back down what they get when they get promoted, if that makes sense. So they won't get 10.5. They'll get an 8% raise, but then we can level it back out where they're only going to be getting a 7% raise at promotion, just like captains. So it does fix that aspect. And lieutenants get overtime now, which they didn't before. And so the captain promotion percentage to go from lieutenant to captain is 7%. And then it would be 10.5% for everybody else but lieutenants, who would get 8%. So if you look at that in comparison, right now detention deputies start out at $18.96 an hour. If the 10.5% was approved, that would be raising their starting pay to $20.95 an hour. For LEO deputies, their starting pay would be $20.37 an hour and would raise them to $22.51 an hour. Starting pay, even at 10.5% on that scale, we're still last. Again, remember PD starting out at $25.13. But I don't think, to catch us there, I don't think anybody's interested in giving us a 22.5% raise. So 10.5% gets us at least back in the ballgame. When we look at our positions currently within our staffing table, you can see we're very young. So nearly a little over 25% of our uniform positions are in step 1. That means we're extremely young in the field, extremely young in the detention facility. You can see between all the rest of the steps, if you're a senior deputy, you have 10 years on. And so you can see we're just barely over 5% of our deputies have 10 years on. Most of those, I'll be honest with you, are up in judicial and not in the field. We have very young supervisors as well. So from a pay scale percentage, they're way down low on the step increase part of this.
Sheriff,
Yes.
can you just explain this slide real fast?
Which one?
Okay, so this positions by step.
So again, we are set up in steps. So step 1 is a starting deputy, whether you're a detention or commission. Step 10 is when you top out on pay. So you can't get any more pay unless there's COLA increases. You're topped out on your pay. So what this is saying is it's about 105 people within our organization are at step 1.
Okay,
So they're brand new. They're within their first year of being with us.
gotcha.
And then you know step 2, basically up to step 10, they've been with us for 10 years.
Gotcha. I just didn't understand the very first, like, what was the other
Yeah.
scale over there? Okay.
So what the next slide depict is we also have a lot of unfilled positions. So when we talk about the cost to fill unfilled positions, that cost is about $503,000. Then you throw in salary tax, which we are asked to do as well, because it's not just about what their pay is. We got to throw in salary taxes. For the unfilled positions, that is roughly $2.5 million with final cost, with salary tax.
Unfilled? What was that?
And so, basically, again, the ask is for $4,016,000 for pay increases, and now I'll go into longevity pay unless we want to split that up, and you have questions in reference to salary increases.
Does anybody have any questions? Chairman Dennis, do you have any questions? Okay, I don't see any. Oh, go ahead.
I don't have any questions, thank you. going pretty fast, Mr. Sheriff. Thank you. You mentioned earlier you're losing people at Park City.
Yes, we have.
Okay. They're actually paid on that chart that you showed us. They're paid less than Sedgwick County.
Yeah, they're offering $10,000 signing bonus, and the way they're retracting our people, if they hire somebody off the streets that they got to send to the academy, that's their starting pay. If they hire our folks, they match our pay to bring them in.
So that's what's called a lateral transfer, I guess?
Yes.
Or do you do that as well?
We have not yet. We have actually looked at it. I will tell you what I've experienced with lateral transfers. We usually get people that are in trouble or we're not that good at cops where they're coming from. And, we lost 2 good ones out of the 4. The other 2, they were mediocre.
How many of these other departments do lateral transfers?
PD has tried it. Omaha does not. Douglas County does not. And I don't know, Ben, if you know who else does out of that. Johnson County, I know, does not.
What about the other cities? You mentioned Hayesville, Mount Hope, Clearwater, Park City, Bel Air, Eastboro.
Yeah, so Mays, they do. And that's why their starting pay is a little bit off. Again, if they hire somebody off the streets they got to send to the academy, they will start them out at a lower rate. If they bring them in that are law enforcement from elsewhere, then they will pay them a higher rate to bring them in.
What about WPD?
WPD tried it and it failed miserably.
Okay.
We tried the whole part-time job in detention. That failed miserably as well. And so the fact of the matter is that what we have over those communities is we have steps and ranges. So they know what their top out pay is going to be. In places like Park City, you might be at that pay for years. There is not a pay plan in place. And so we have some people that decided they think the pasture's greener on the other side and have gone there. And we've had a couple people reach back out to us and say they want to come back. So,
curiously, how did you get all this data? Is there a manual somewhere, a book, a reference source of some sort, or how did you get this data?
no, there's a pay committee that reached out to each one of these departments, worked within some parameters that finance had asked us to work within, and then started the process of comparing everything that we could with these agencies.
Are all of these agencies, except for Wichita, KP&F?
Well, Johnson County would be, I don't know what they are, and
I guess I'm just saying, when you start talking about salary, it's important to talk about benefits as well, because it's not just dollars per hour. There's other parts of the.
absolutely. And I was going to discuss that too, because every one of these departments have incentives, more than one. We have none. So you're right, that absolutely needs to be part of the conversation.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Next slide we'll go to is longevity pay. When we talk about longevity pay, several years ago, the sheriff's or the county had longevity pay. What we did is we took a look at the tenure rate for detention deputy, because of course we're 93 positions down. We hire 8. Next thing we know, we're 93 down again. And so a lot of our openings are caused by us because we take those folks to patrol. We have 8 in class right now. All 8 of them came from detention out of 13 applications that we had, which is not good. And so we also lose them to the police department. I already have had 3 letters this week because a class is getting ready to start in July where the police department has hired 3 of our detention deputies. So we lose detention to, luckily we're losing them a lot more to that than them just up and quitting. But as you can see from the tenure rate, in 2019 our average tenure was 6.2 years, 2020 was 5.4, 2021 was 4.3, 2022 was 4.38. And so what that tells us is we have detention deputies leaving sooner than they used to. As I just mentioned, almost all the departments that we looked at have incentive pays. Most of them have 2 or more. I can tell you the Wichita Police Department has several. They got at least 6, including longevity pay. The reason that we're asking for this, we believe, based upon these numbers and putting in some type of incentive to stay here longer, could improve our retention numbers. We put out a survey. Actually, we put out 3 surveys. One of which is what's the biggest thing that is affecting the sheriff's office. We gave them categories, leadership, benefits, pay. There's about 4 or 5 others. Overwhelmingly, it was pay. We put out another survey, told them not to include pay on it, gave them their opportunities to look at these things. Its pay was still number 1, although it wasn't even in there. Same with this last decision or last survey. We put out 9 things that if you could get incentive pay, what is the biggest or the one that becomes number 1 to you to receive as incentive? Longevity overwhelmingly is what they voted on after pay, because they still put pay in this one. But longevity is about 79% of the folks wanted to see longevity pay. Thank you. So that's what we decided to build a package on, was longevity pay. This slide here shows what longevity pay was in 2003 when it ended. As you can see, the percentages between the steps, there was really no rhyme or reason, but that's what it was in 2003. It costs around $276,000 when you throw in inflation rates since 2003. The proposed longevity pay that we're looking at is there's 2 different packages here. One of which shows somewhat similar to the 2003 longevity plan, however, with different percentages, and that they're even across the board. We would also reduce longevity pay to 3 to 4 years instead of getting it your 5th year. And the cost to that would be $309,452 for 1 year. What we would rather see, to be real honest with you, is this package, which is based on percentages and accounts in there how many employees it would be affecting right now, and what that total cost would be with labor and taxes, or labor taxes, is $357,000. What this shows is, so the yearly incentive range, when it says 201 to 238, if you're a 3-year employee, you'd receive $201 spaced out on each paycheck to equal $201. If you're 4 years, you're going to get $238. And that's the same for 5 to 9. The low end at 5 years would be $443 a year. The high end at year 9 would be $873, all the way through 25 plus years. And so that's what that would cost for 1 year of longevity pay. The other thing about those percentages is if they're easily fixable. If we need to go lower, you just bring the percentage down lower. Instead of 0.375, maybe it's 0.325. It's easier for finance and payroll to base what they need to do on these percentages. Yes, sir.
So, Sheriff, let me understand this chart. So, for instance, if somebody's at 14 years, they get $1,375 in longevity pay.
Mm-hmm.
So then when they go to 15th year, they take less? They only get $1,077?
No, it will be based upon where they go to there. I think that number's wrong, by the way, but
It's the rank difference structure.
yeah. So you got to throw in the ranks as well. And so when you have a 14-year employee at the deputy rank, that's a different percentage than a 14-year employee that's a lieutenant.
Okay. But then they go to the next year.
Yeah, so if you're a 14-year employee, that when we say 1375, that's going to be your higher ranks.
Okay.
So they're going to fall in between there. When you have a 14-year employee that's a deputy that's maybe 1,000 or less, then they're going to go to the next. If there's a deputy the entire time, then they'll go to the next, which is the lowest amount of money on here. But we have to figure it based upon ranks as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Not really?
That's okay.
right.
We're talking a few hundred. So basically, somebody is not penalized to get to the next year?
No, not at all.
Right. Okay.
Again, those percentages can be retooled very quickly. That does not cause a lot of work for HR or finance. We had HR in there with us because we was very in tune with, we do not want to create more work for HR, for payroll, those type of things. And so through those meetings, that's what kind of guided us towards what's the best option here to not create more work for other county departments. Questions on longevity pay?
I don't see any.
Okay. The second package and final package that we have is for the K-9 budget. We've had K-9 operations since 2001. The way those were brought to the sheriff's office would be funded through donations. Since 2001, that's how it has been funded, and then offset by asset forfeiture. Asset forfeiture pretty much doesn't exist anymore, and so it is based solely on donations, which there's no money there, I'll be honest with you. We value what our K-9s do. They do handler protection, they do tracking, they do drug detection, and then, again, the protection of the handler. They're an intricate part of what we do now, especially with the drug stuff, and we have a lot of people that run or missing children. So we utilize our K-9s for missing adults, missing children, to be able to track their path fairly quickly. And so over time, the donations just aren't there. And so, in fact, last year, the K-9 unit put on a golf tournament, raised about $14,000. K-9s can be very expensive when it comes to medical. And so we went through that $14,000 before the year ended. Actually, they're putting on another tournament this Saturday. But that's not going to get us anywhere where we need to be. Plus, when our K-9s age out, we have to buy new ones. That's $10,000 current prices right now for a K-9. So we're simply asking that if we value what the K-9s bring to the sheriff's office and bring to the county, that now starts being supported out of taxpayer funds. And we're requesting $25,000 a year to keep the K-9 unit running. Currently, we have 4 K-9s that are out in the field and 1 K-9 that simply does drug detection inside the facility. So it'd be 5 dogs total. So when we look at the entirety of our 2 packages, for the compensation increase for uniformed personnel that talks about the 10.5% raises and longevity pay, it's about $4,016,000. For the K-9 budget is $25,000, total is $4,041,000. And with that, I'll stand for any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Sheriff. Are there any questions?
Okay. Well, thank you for your time today and your consideration in these two. I know you have a lot of important business to do, so I really do appreciate taking the time today. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
Yeah, we'll still bring the dogs around for you guys to see. Yeah. It has not.
I just discovered
Sure.
some of these charts that are more readable in the budget book, so it might be helpful.
That's good.
Lindsay emailed them to us as well, so you have a pretty legible copy in your emails now.
Is there an Excel copy of this?
Not that I have, but we can ask.
Does the sheriff have that? Do you have an Excel copy of the raw data that created all these charts? Please send that to me, please. Thank you.
See you, Sheriff. Just wave them by.
Commissioners, next we'll hear from the District Attorney's Office. He is not here quite yet. We're running a little bit ahead. We should be here shortly.
Okay, we will wait and take a break, I guess, until he shows up.
Who's next? Who's next?
Some of the comparables here, like Lubbock County, Texas, and Greene County, Missouri, do you know why they were selected?
I think because they run similar operations to what we do. They're similarly structured. And there's not a lot that necessarily are. But we'll confirm that.
It's starting up close.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Sorry, I heard a disembodied voice. I wasn't sure who was talking to me.
We'll be on page 370.
Just tell me when you're ready.
Okay, I think we're ready. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the DA's office. I'll go ahead and give you the main ask right up front, so you know what I'm up against here. With ARPA funds and the counties work with me in that regard, that's helped a ton this year. So the simple request is I'm asking for $1,000 over last year's budget. That's where I'm at because I need an increase in what we pay witnesses. We haven't increased that pay in years. I can't remember, it was early 2000s or late 90s when we last changed it. So need to probably bump that up a little bit. So that's it. I could sit down at this point and I'd probably be the easiest presentation of the whole deal. But while I'm here, while I'm here, I just can't pass up the opportunity to hear myself speak, I guess. So, no, I think that because there's so much going on right now in the arena of criminal justice, I think I saw nearly everybody this morning at the Summit on Mental Health and Substance Abuse. And so just very quickly give you a sort of a state of the state with respect to the DA's office. Obviously, there's a lot going on. The courthouse changes, new courtrooms, public health, mental health, all these things. So I'll kind of walk you through briefly where things are at and take any questions. won't try to take too much of your time. Real quickly, we were asked to come up or show you at least visually the areas of the office that are struggling to maintain. The green were better, the orangish yellow, whatever that is, we're holding serve. The red is obviously the issue for us, and those are the lowest paid employees we've got, and the turnover rate there is just exceptionally high. You know our mission. I think you know the office overview, what we do, and all the different areas of the criminal justice system that we touch. Statistics, I'll answer any questions you might have over statistics. You'll note at the top of the page, the reality is criminal cases filed. We have tried very hard over the last couple of years with the COVID shutdown and with the strain that's already in place regarding criminal cases. We've held off on charging cases. We have come up with other sort of one-off ways to handle low-level property crimes, drug crimes, things like that. We had a special docket where the courts paid for 2 lawyers, private lawyers, to come in and defend people in these cases, and just funneled them through giving misdemeanors and trying to make sure we got restitution on property cases and got people into treatment on drug cases. Wasn't probably the most effective, but it was efficient. But we still have several hundred cases that we could file that are ready to file, but we're holding back because we don't want to overwhelm the system. We've got to get through the rapes, the murders, the violent crime, the shooting cases. That is our priority. So that's the one thing that I answer the question before it's asked. That's why the downturn in criminal cases.
Mark,
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
On this, so when we look at specifically the drug court, going back to 2017, you see that
Numbers are down.
numbers are way down. So, and I know that we had a change in judges, but I wonder.
We've had a change in judge. We've had a change in defense attorney as well.
Okay.
And there's probably some fewer cases, drug-specific cases going into the system. I'll also tell you that just 10 days ago or so, a new specialty court bill was passed by the Kansas legislature. We've already had a conversation this week about instituting another specialty court, Veterans Court.
Yeah.
The advantage there is the Veterans Administration, the VA, is already set up to kind of give wraparound services to at least to one category of veterans. And so we are going to have a renewed effort to flood those courts with more resources. Veterans Administration obviously is the first step in that with respect to a Veterans Court. So that's.
But when was the judge changed though? That wasn't very long ago, right?
Year ago.
Okay, so I mean, it seems like in 2017,
Yeah.
we had 83 folks go through that.
Yeah, we had the dip was 2019. I'll have to double check how 19 into 20. That's how many people would have gotten through. I don't know if that was impacted by COVID. Although it was 19, are those people come into the system in 19 would have been completed in 2020? I don't know the answer to that, but right in there is when you saw a major change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So moving forward, my office, just as you kind of keep in mind how you're organizing the county, paying for things long-term, kind of a 5-year plan. I think I would want to know this if I were in your shoes. Staffing challenges, turnovers, keeping attorneys, keeping qualified attorneys, keeping qualified support staff is the biggest priority for us. I will tell you, just making sure.
We got it
Okay.
fixed.
All right,
Good.
there we go.
Thank you.
Just this last, 2 weeks ago, right before I did my presentation to the county staff, had a young man walk into my office and let me know he's an attorney with 5 years of experience. He's been given an opportunity to prosecute in another county in the state, and he's getting a 47% pay increase.
Jeez.
I was not able to compete with that. So we do still lose people, not to the private sector, to Folston, Siefken, and Fleece and Gooing. We lose them to other public places. So there is an ongoing salary study for my office specifically, and I know the county is has made commitments to increase and make increasing salary for county employees generally, and my crew included, an absolute priority. I'm just restating the obvious. It is can't have good prosecutor's office without good quality attorneys. And so luckily we have people who are still committed to the work. I think I've told you this already, maybe one anecdote, but some of you have heard this. I had a young man walk in my office 90 days ago and tell me he was being offered $40,000 a year more than I could pay him by a private attorney here in town, a private firm. And I said, when's your last day? I just assumed he'd be gone, and he said, I'm sticking it out. I just want you to know what you're up against. I believe in this work. I love the job, and I'm staying. And I thought, fantastic. But it does tell me what I'm up against, and that is good quality people like that are in high demand. What did I hear yesterday on the way home? There are 1.9 jobs in America, 1.9 jobs for every one person applying. Now, obviously, it's a smaller field for people with law degrees. But still, demands are the jobs are out there, and I gotta compete. So
Was that 1.9 just for attorneys?
I don't think it was just for attorneys, but my point is for just the workforce in general. It just kind of tells you, but whether it's entry-level positions in a law office or the attorneys, I think it has an impact. So turnover rate, you can see this. I think again, I'm happy to stop at any one of these, but I'm just trying to move through this at a fairly straightforward clip here. Let's see here. Crime trends. This is one of the things I think you need to be aware of as you plan ahead. Crime trends. If you go back far enough, in 2013 there were 17 murders in Wichita. This last year, I think the last year it was 59 in the city, 2 in the county in 2020, 54 in the city. I don't remember what the county had. So we are moving in the wrong direction. Another major consideration is just gun violence in general. The number of gun shootings, non-fatal shootings, has gone up exponentially over the last couple of years. Gun violence is guns are falling in the hands of the wrong people. A lot of kids, a lot of young people who solve their problems that instead of fistfights, pushing and shoving or calling names, it's gun battles. And so we see a great deal of that. But in all other respects, most other crime, burglaries are down quite a bit. A lot of the property crimes are either down or not considerably up. Everything that's got a negative next to it, negative signs is a good thing, but unfortunately those are almost exclusively in the property crime section. The violent crime section, the lowest increase we've seen is in rape, which is horrible. It's almost 20%. So,
Commissioner Cruz?
Yeah.
All right, Mark, I gotta ask you.
Sure.
What are the percentage of these crimes that have a drug charge?
It's later on in the
associated with it?
presentation. It is.
Oh, you knew I was gonna ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I have my Lacey file here, so it's.
All right.
Oh, that's all right. You ask now. Where are we at here?
Oh, we could wait to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
bury the lead here. I'll go
Okay.
on to the next. So
Thank you.
we're getting right close here. Property crimes. You can see it's just another way of showing the same information. Violent crimes, unfortunately, is on the wrong trend up. Homicides, I just addressed that a moment ago, and you've seen these numbers. I will say these are charged, not committed. So these are the ones we've actually charged in the system. So you'll notice in 2020 there was 43. And just a moment ago I said something about 50 some odd. These are the ones we could actually get charged. So that's the only distinction I draw your attention to there. So drug use. Continues to have a significant impact on crime. Again, I think every one of you was at the summit this morning, so what I'm about to say is of no surprise to anyone in this room. Commissioner Howell.
I'm sorry to go back, but I'm still on this previous slide. I apologize.
That one?
No, one before
One
that,
more?
I guess.
There you
And
go.
you're going fast.
What
Yep.
was that?
There you go.
There we are.
Happen to notice there that the murder line is fairly flat until you get 2020. And the next line below that is pretty flat from 2019 to 2020, and the change on that line is earlier in the 5-year series there. So I'm just curious, can you speculate anything about why those are the way they are?
I don't believe that rapes and murders there's much of a correlation. I've not seen anything either anecdotally myself or in any sort of systemic discussion that they're linked one to the other. I think they're independent variables. With respect to rape, I have not heard of anything in particular other than the fact that if there's another what am I trying to say? Another significant factor in that, and that would be domestic violence. We have a domestic violence problem in this country, and specifically in Sedgwick County. That I don't think it's a surprise to anybody who follows these trends. And rape and crimes of sexual violence are far too often, and not just a little bit more, but almost always known suspects to the victim. And so there's a correlation, I believe, between domestic violence and just violence in dating relationships and relationships between significant others, and a break in that, and then acts of violence up to and including rape. So if I had to say there's one thing that would address the issue of sexual violence in this community, you can't have that conversation without talking about the sweeping general description of domestic violence, partner violence, former partner violence. I think that's part of it. Go ahead.
I was just saying, the narrative the narrative on the chart, if someone wasn't looking at the chart, they were listening in, is that the murder rates between 2016 to 2019 are flat, and then it jumps way up.
Yep.
And the rape line is different than that, where 2019 to 2020 is almost exactly the same number. In fact, it's a reduction from 2018. 2017 is about the same number again. So again, 2017 through 2020 is almost flat on that line, but there was a big jump from 2016 to 2017.
Right.
And then so every one of these is a little bit like that, and it's just a little bit odd. I'm trying to think what was going on in Sedgwick County that caused these weirdo jumps to happen.
There's not, again, I wish I could say, because if it was one thing, we'd go deal with that one thing and hopefully have a precipitous decline, and I just can't look you in the eye and tell you, here's the thing, it's that time when that deal happened. I'm not seeing that.
In fact, said that the property crimes that we've heard a lot over the last few years, that property crimes are tied to drug habits. People are stealing stuff and selling it to get drugs, and
Right.
The property crimes, as you said already, are kind of down, at least over the last 5 years.
And there are some things that are cyclical there, I will say, just anecdotally on property crimes, things like the price of precious metals does have an effect on it. When people are out stealing copper and, those catalytic converters, it's when the price is down at the salvage yard, the crime goes down.
Probably gasoline now, right?
Gasoline, I mean, right now, they have a big problem, and law enforcement's actively engaged in it, is thefts from construction build sites. It's a cottage industry. Guys running around with trailers in the middle of the night and stealing construction materials. Go buy a sheet of plywood compared to a year ago, and you'll know why. Crime is no different than anything else. It's a market-driven economy, and when prices go up, crime goes up.
I have to ask, do you have this chart for juveniles by chance?
I can get one. I don't think we have it included in this, but I can.
I'd like to
certainly
go
provide
back because, again, I'm thinking about Senate Bill 367, how
Oh, yeah.
supposedly that fixed all the things all the problems in the world, and I would tell you, I don't think it has. But one thing about that chart, though, is this is not accusations or charges. This is convictions, I assume. This
This is
reports?
the crime, these are the reports that we come
Okay.
into the system. So I can't say that these are all convictions. I didn't get 61 convictions for homicide in 2020 yet. We still have those cases going through the system, so. But this is crimes reported in Sedgwick County.
So for the juveniles, I know we're reluctant, because of 367, we're reluctant to charge these kids with whatever's going on.
Well, they get charged, but what we can do with them, what the judges have the ability to do in terms of dispositional, what we call sentences, has been impacted.
So my anecdotal, I have no data, but my anecdotal sense is that we've not solved any juvenile crime problems at all. I can't say that.
At the risk of, let's take a break here and talk for 15 minutes about this. that is what is success? I mean, it depends on how one defines success. If you want success to mean kids are in and out of the system faster, and they're not being held up on probation for long periods of time, and there's, to me, that sounds like lowering the consequences. But there's others who would measure that as a success because they want kids to have fewer contacts with the justice system. To me, I'm looking at the health of the community. The criminal justice system is the canary in the coal mine for any community. And if we are having shootings that take place at malls and among teenagers, et cetera, then to me that is a bad sign. And the other thing is, what we can do on these kids is if the juvenile system is ill-equipped to handle more violent criminals, and I'm not suggesting there's thousands of them, but even a few hundred in a community this size can create havoc. And so our remedy, if the juvenile system has not been given, has had the opportunities to deal with these cases taken away from them, then we file a motion for adult prosecution, and we bring them to the adult court. And I'm not sure that was necessarily the goal, but we can have that. That's another conversation as well.
I might add here, Commissioner, we're going to actually have a staff meeting dedicated to this subject of juvenile justice. So we can, Mark and the sheriff will be there, and we can dive into this.
And I can get you more statistics as well.
I'm glad to hear that, because we've had a number of conversations in other environments, and I don't think that the public or my colleagues necessarily have heard some of the things I've heard. So I think that would be very important to have that meeting. So thank you again. And
I'll make sure that we have these stats the best we can get for juvenile cases.
Thank you.
Drugs continue to be a significant impact on the community. 2021, 25% of all criminal cases involved drug charges, 13% involved meth charges specifically. And again, that the routine here. These are not just, well, of course, they're drug cases. It's criminal cases. It's forgeries. It's murders. It's anything we charge. 13% involved a count of meth, 25% involved some kind of drug. And again, the numbers, if they say, well, it's a little better than last time I was up here. Well, also remember, we're not charging as many drug cases as we have been in the past. We've got them basically ready to file. Some of them we're just, we're having to make tough choices about bringing those cases into the system.
So of the 25% of drug cases, 13% are meth. Is that what you're saying?
13% of all criminal cases are meth.
Okay.
Or have a count of meth involved in them.
So the 25% is all other drugs? Or it includes meth?
Includes meth.
Okay, that was my question.
I'm sorry, yeah, I wasn't understanding your question.
Thank you.
25% include meth, 25% include drugs of some kind, and I always ask for the meth question, how many are specifically meth?
Okay.
So, okay. And you can see another visualization of that. So the numbers look a little bit lower this year over 2020, but again, that's all, you gotta remember, that's kind of baked in the fact that we have not charged as many drug cases. So I don't consider that a win. That's not, we're just, drinking from the fire hose right now, trying to handle as many cases as we can. Another way of looking at this over a period of time, going back to 2017, and you can see those numbers there. If we could, I'm not sure. I'll move David up here in the corner so that you can see the final numbers at the bottom. Sorry, Dave, you just got moved. Anyway, you can see the numbers. Other final things to be aware of as you're planning ahead for budgets. The Odyssey, which we've been talking about for several years, which is the new records management system for the courts in Kansas. That has been pushed several times over the years. COVID probably did us all a favor by slowing that process down. They were talking about going live sometime in the fall of 2019, early spring of 2020 when COVID hit. And that slowing of things, because of COVID, it slowed down, which has been a benefit because I think it allowed everybody to catch up and realize there were more problems with it, at least with its rollout, than might have been anticipated. So when that happens, when that day finally comes, that the court system, the court system for Kansas has a new records management system, my records management system will have to know how to talk to it. We are so codependent upon records management systems now. When you enter data, it draws down from other databases. The idea of sitting down and having someone data entry all day long, all of the details we deal with. I don't mean to sound hyperbolic. I need 100 more support staff members if those systems didn't talk. So I've been very grateful that the OJA and the folks in Topeka have slowed things down and tried to get this done, but there will be a cost associated with this. Also, my records management system, Justware, is going down. At some point, they're no longer going to be supported, so I need one as well. So there will be costs associated with all of this data. Another thing to remember, you've heard me talk about data management. Irrespective of these new management systems, you've heard me talk about the fact that how much data my office has to manage in terms of discovery. From 2016 to 2021, there's been a 45% increase in the terabytes of information that my office provides annually to the defense bar. In 2021, just last year, we provided 14.5 terabytes of discovery. We are on a pace already this year through, I think, end of April, maybe the first week of May, when this was generated, we are on a pace to provide over 36 terabytes. I didn't know what a terabyte was 15 years ago when I first heard about it in a child porn case, oddly enough. All of my stories, all of my anecdotes have some horrible backstory. But that is an astonishing amount of information that we have to process. And so, again, it impacts county IT, servers, the robust nature of the records management systems we need, et cetera. Opportunities. And we've got innovative technologies that are helping and should help our staff work more efficiently. A new records management system, there's a RFP, I believe, out. Preparing, excuse me. I spoke too soon, but we've already looked at a couple. We've had one in particular that came in and wowed everybody's socks off. I mean, what they can do today compared to what they could do 10, 15 years ago when we bought our last one. It's astonishing because every prosecutor's office and law office around the country is dealing with this. And so the private sector and these software companies are stepping up. So the opportunities for an enhanced efficiency are there. Digital evidence management system, that's another subset of our records management system. It would help us process discovery that much faster. We just literally had a conversation 30 minutes ago with Aaron Breitenbach, one of my deputies, about the fact that the public defender's office is struggling to deal with all the streaming from the Axon body cameras from the Wichita Police Department. We knew years ago when, it's been probably 5 years ago, I guess, when they went to Axon body cameras and every cop in the streets wearing them, that it was going to overwhelm the fairly antiquated computers that the public defenders had. I went to his credit, I went to Bob Layton at the time and said, "You guys bought this. Would you please step up and help?" And so, to his credit and the city's credit, they bought the public defenders a set of new computers to handle it. But now I think there's a problem with the bandwidth, et cetera, that they've got. So my point is that for every time we get some new thing, we've got to make sure that all the partners in the justice system can accommodate this. So, yeah, I'd like to think that all my time is spent talking about how to win and handle, murder cases, but I'm spending my time talking about the bandwidth at the public defender's office to make sure we can get them to discovery in a timely manner.
Okay, so, thank you. So Tom just walked out of the room, but we're talking about the database for the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Coalition. And I understand that these are different, have different functions and all that. But when we're talking about technology in general for the whole county government as a whole, and we're going out to an outside firm right now with high-tech technologies to integrate that system, why wouldn't we in some way try to start figuring out how the county works together as a whole? And as far as technology goes, don't we pay outrageous amounts for management of these?
So we pay for the license on the front end and the implementation, and then there are what am I trying to say? Annual updates on those licenses. There's two ways to do this. You have a fleet of people who work for you as county employees who do this, and you have enough folks to run the jail management system that they draft and they create, and you have enough for them to create one for me and do that, or you go to the private sector and hire it from outside. I'm not sure call it a philosophical difference, maybe it's a cost efficiency difference. Whichever it is, I'm in the market. And as I said, there's an RFP that's being put together right now. If it's something the county thinks they can do, that'd be part of it.
I don't know
Yeah.
that we can. I'm
Sure.
clearly not a technology guru. I'm sure Commissioner Lopez probably has a lot more information
I can-
on technology than I do. But what my question is, for the
Sure.
big picture, long-term thinking, if we're going to try to integrate systems, or if we're going to have, PD talk to
SO to.
providers for person-centered care, right? If we're talking about a person going through the system, more than likely they might be in our other system, and then they're going to be in your system too. And is there a way to better care for a person if you have all the information in one place, rather than having to sift through everything down the road?
And not only is that a possibility, but you also reduce the risk of mistakes, meaning, is this Stephen A. Jones, okay? Is that Stephen Allen or Stephen Aaron? And, but they're both born in 57, so which one? You'd be amazed at how a simple data entry tweak can send a case on the wrong, can cause all sorts of breakdowns. So yes, I'm of the same opinion with this caveat. What we found when we had the same, if Commissioner Dennis was here, he'd probably be raising his hand right now to say, he and I and Sheriff Easter and others were in this very conversation with the city several years ago when they went to a new records management system. The idea being, why doesn't the city and the county get on the same one? And what we found at the time, and was the argument at least, was that there is not a single provider in the private sector who has a records management system that is robust enough for a city police department the size of Wichita, and a jail records management system, because it's different issues, different things that they maintain, the size of the Sedgwick County Sheriff, and our 911, and a DA's office, our site, et cetera. It seems a little hard to believe that somebody hasn't seen the way forward to make plenty of money on that, but at that point, at least 2-3 years ago, it hadn't happened. I am hopeful that over time, either the county or some private entity will see the utility in putting enough resources into it to say, I can come up with a better mousetrap that fits all of these. But as of a couple of years ago, that didn't exist. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So, Tom, when you walked out, I talked about how we're working with High Touch in regards to a new management system for our social service providers, and that just got me thinking as a really big picture idea for obviously many years down the road, but how systems can work together when you're talking about one person going through CommCare all the way through to Mark.
Yeah. I don't know if Elpers wants to get up and talk, but we are discussing that and looking at that, again, probably a meeting separately and on its own away from here, but there has to be a system. Mark speaks the truth on the RMS issue. I was involved in that as well. And first of all, the partners got to want to play, which we had difficulty with 3 or 4 years ago regarding the RMS, but also it was a product search as well. So, Mike, do you want to talk?
Yeah, Commissioner, I can tell you that the two most difficult things to maintain in a software solution are, number one, the customization, right? Because people don't build software to fit specific organizations. They build them to fit a specific industry. But the second one is those interfaces, right? How the systems talk to one another. That's been the case for a long time. And the tech industry is kind of standardizing that now. They've settled in on a specific group of protocols, web services type of application programming interfaces for the applications to talk to each other. It used to be they were all over the place. And really now that's down to really less than half a dozen. So it's not everywhere yet, but as the software developers are coming out with their new versions, a lot of them are cloud-based, right? They're accessed over the internet versus installed in a data center. They're building them with the idea with features to address that common difficulty that's been in place for so long, and that is interfacing with each other.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's probably a pipe dream, but I think it's important for us to start thinking that way as a global, like a global picture of our organization and how we function with it. I mean, because we have IRIS, right, that we work with provider referral network, and I mean, I know that those aren't the same. I'm well aware of that, but I just think a big picture thinking, and it could save us money, a lot of money as far as maintenance goes. Yeah, I just hope that we can maybe put that in the back of our mind and think about that long term.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. I know the government likes to have this coordination and sharing of data and all that, but I'm also very sensitive to the constitutional ideas of privacy. And I think we have to be very careful. And I just think that it may be in our best interest to create these records, but once we create the records, then we have people who access records who don't have a need to access records. We have to protect those records, and sometimes they leak out. We just had employment records from the election office got hacked and released to the dark web the other day, and nobody planned for that to happen, but it did happen. And so at the end of the day, if someone touches one of our agencies out there trying to get some kind of help, if all of a sudden there's a record created that's now shared by agencies that have no interest, have no reason to see that, it becomes the issue of privacy and violation of that person's rights. I just want to be very careful not to think that a bigger, more coordinated system is necessarily the right answer. We have to be very, very careful. I would just tell you there's a stigma that comes with someone reach out to get mental health assistance. If they realize they're creating a record that's going to be forever, they can't expunge it, and everybody has access to it, that's a pretty big deterrent for them to reach out to get help in the first place. If they know they can do this privately and get help without creating a future barrier to themselves, then they're more likely to maybe reach out to get that help. And so I know we're all well-meaning and all of that, but I think that some of these ideas I think are also very they discourage people from getting help that they need, perhaps. So I just want to be super careful. I'm not so sure I'm convinced that a very well-coordinated system amongst all the agencies, including criminal justice and the district attorney's office, is something we really want to do here.
Those are, I think, some of the limitations that we've seen, because it's been difficult to accommodate those concerns in a overarching, holistic approach. So, but all things to be considered as we move forward. So,
thank you.
Very quickly, the budget request. Hopefully, this is you like seeing this. I mean, in terms of the percentage of change, it's going in the right direction this year for me. The witness thing is the only thing I'm really asking for. I guess it's been since 2005 was the last time we had an increase at $16 a day per diems. We'd like to increase it to $32 next year, and then up to $48 in 2024, and the net request to be $1,000 increase in the budget to accommodate this. So pretty de minimis, but it does matter for those folks who have to come in and be witnesses in cases. So that's the 32,000, 48,000, 60,000 foot view of what's going on. I guess the big picture I'd say is two things I'd leave you with is obviously I need to have, there's really no way, and we cannot make this more efficient, so efficient that human beings are not part of the process. And I have to have lawyers who are willing to go into court and stand up and say on behalf of the state of Kansas, Mark Bennett appears. And we have to have cops who go out and interview witnesses. We have to have case coordinators who bring the witnesses in and make this whole process work. So it's a person-driven business that I'm in. And as a result, I have to have good folks willing to be here. I do. Frankly, the amount of work that some of these people that work in our office, the amount of work that they do for the amount of pay they're getting is astonishing. I think anybody who followed us around, anyone in my office followed them around for a month, would be, number one, surprised that they do it, and number two, surprised that they can do it, given the pressures and limitations. So I want to be very clear here. I am absolutely singing the praises of my staff, and I want to be also very clear that I'm asking that I know the limitations the county government's under, but as you are considering budgets, please give strong consideration to pay, as I know you are, so that we can maintain, both in my administration and in administrations to come. I won't be here forever. I want the next DA to not look back and go, my Lord, he left me with a mess. I want him to know I got handed off a great situation with people who can earn a living wage and be proud of what they're doing. So I'm asking for, obviously, salary considerations. And as we move forward, I just want you to be aware there are other things to come. Odyssey, records management. These ARPA positions, at some point, today's not the day, but at some point I'll need some direction, probably the next year and a half. Are we going to increase incrementally my number of FTEs to accommodate those folks, or do they just take over as attrition comes? Again, I'll look for some direction from the county on that, but we're moving along, we're working on cases, we are trying a ton of cases. A lot of work's getting done in the court system, so that's the overview. Commissioner Howe.
Thank you. So I know we're trying to coordinate our JMS, RMS, and I know that correct me if I'm wrong, but the small cities, I hate to use the word small because Derby's not small anymore, but the cities
Smaller.
other than Wichita, they're all players in our RMS system. Is that correct?
I'm not sure that they all are. I think
Except for Wichita.
Goddard, I think, had just bought something. Maybe it's not Goddard, but one of them I know had just bought something different. But I think the idea is they're gonna get onto it eventually. Yes.
We haven't even started we have not actually begun our new system yet, have we?
What, you talking about Odyssey, or are you talking about the?
Our new RMS system, is it live, or is it still
No.
being implemented?
No, I'm getting the.
It is not, but
Helper
it's
saying no.
But it's
so.
imminent. Mike, you want to comment?
October this year. And so Goddard, they chose to.
I think they had already. I want to say it's Goddard. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was one of the smaller jurisdictions had already made signed a contract with somebody just like the year before all this went live. So they've got a contract that lasts a period of time. But I understood from talking to the sheriff that all of the local jurisdictions within Sedgwick County were going to be within a reasonable amount of time on the same records
Are they going
management
to pay
system.
for some type of a connector between their system and ours?
I am fully confident I'm not the guy to ask that question. I don't know.
But Wichita is, in fact, someone on the Wichita side is making some type of a way to connect their system and their new system with our new system. Is that correct?
We're working on that, yeah.
You're working on that?
Yeah, the city of Wichita IT and Sedgwick County IT are working together to try and establish that connection.
Who's bearing the cost of that?
City of Wichita.
And I might add, from my discussions with the sheriff, the city's going to actually have a kiosk in the jail to sit down and actually work through this. We are signing small city by small city across the county an agreement for them to be part of the sheriff RMS system. We will bear that cost, and it is not much to bring those class 2 and 3 cities on. I'm almost sure Derby has signed to be part of our RMS system, but the sheriff is getting those one at a time, and I think that he's almost got all of them. Wichita will have to have a bridge, and they
The
will pay
advantage
for
of
it.
that, of course, is they can see our records, they can input records. I mean, there's advantages for them to have that access the same as we would have access. I guess that's what we're saying. They would have equal access, so to speak. Is there some reason why Wichita, I mean, do they still have access to view records and input records, even though they have to go through this? And can we also see their records, I guess is maybe another question. Can we see their records equally? They can see our records. Can we also see their records?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question. I can find that out. All these small cities that are part of this, what it is CAD and the sheriff's records management system.
Right.
Computer-aided dispatch and RMS. Their data is actually going to sit in our data centers on this new system. They will be accessing it in our data centers. So as they're driving around picking up people to bring them to the jail, the data that they've entered on those people is already in the system.
It's physically housed on our equipment, you're saying, but in terms of, I guess I don't see the advantage. If they can see our records, we can see their records, and it's simply separate. I don't see what advantage they had by going to different software. But if there's some type of separation where we're giving them access to our records, but we're not able to see their records, that would be very, very concerning. So I don't know why. I guess I'd like to know how this ends up, I guess.
Okay, I can get you some more information on that.
And but they're paying for the programming to make this happen.
The city of Wichita, yes.
Do we know what that is? What's that?
We're still working out the exact dollar amount. They proposed something that was a certain dollar amount, and we're saying that some of the items that like the database versions that they spec'd out in this proposal are not the database versions that we need. The ones that we need cost a little bit more. So final price has not been set yet.
Okay. I have more questions, but I think I'll just stop for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
That doesn't involve records management systems? Not so much?
Okay.
I appreciate your time, and again, holler at any point if you have any questions about things. took, more time than I wanted, but I think it's important for you to know kind of where things are headed. I'd want to know this information if I were you trying to make budgetary decisions. So, thank you all.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It looks like we have a break until 2:45, and then we will be back at 2:45. Thank you. It has been for months.
It's getting worse than mine. No, they sell GPS quacks on eBay.
Okay, we're back online. We're getting the thumbs up. I'll wait until everybody's back. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We'll be starting with the district court on page 389 of your binders. Page 389.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. I'm going to sort of provide an overview and then turn it over to Joni, and she can get into some of the details. One of the things that, sort of off topic but nevertheless important, that I wanted to update you all on, since the last time I was here, the legislature has approved our 3 new judges, so we can look forward to 2 district judges in January, and we can look forward to a magistrate judge in January. The other significant update that's happened since the last time I was here is that Senator Jerry Moran was successful in securing $1 million to establish a Veterans Treatment Court in Sedgwick County. Last week, no, it wasn't last, I think it was this week, we had a meeting of the steering committee. The Office of Judicial Administration has provided us a grant writer to assist us in accessing the federal burn money, and so we are off to a good start to establishing a VTC. Once we sort of accomplish that goal, we can start doing due diligence on other specialty type courts and whether they're feasible. Later on, or whenever it's appropriate, I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Joni can give you the details on the budget. I want to focus on the 3 decision packages that we have. The first is $875,000 for an increase in the rate of pay for court-appointed attorneys. The last time that these hourly rates were increased was in 2017. Since that time, the state has increased the bids reimbursement to state court-appointed attorneys to $100 an hour. Even at that rate, at the state level, we are finding it difficult to find people that are willing to do court-appointed work. And so the decision package that we have is simply to bring the county reimbursements in line with the state reimbursements so that we can compete, because we're having a difficult time finding people interested in taking on that important work. The second is $100,000 for increased jury fees. Here again, to dig out requires more jury trials. More jury trials means more jurors being summoned, and that's just sort of a cost of doing business. And the last is $10,000 in training funds for court clerk supervisors. I'll let Joni get into the details on that. But that's sort of the big picture and the overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have of me before I turn it over to Joni.
Does anybody have any questions? Doesn't look like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome, Joni.
Hi. I haven't had the opportunity to meet everyone. My name is Joni Wilson Colby, and I'm the new court administrator for the 18th. I replaced Ellen House, who left enormous shoes for me to fill. She's here today. She has been assisting me in the preparation of the budget, which I'm very grateful for. Our mission statement in the 18th is to provide fair and just services in a courteous and timely manner. I know one of the requests was to identify areas where we had staffing issues. So this chart shows our vulnerable areas regarding hiring and retention. The green highlighted areas represents a 90% or higher staffing level. The yellow shows those offices with staffing of 80 to 89%. In our case, these are our official court reporters, criminal clerks, family law clerks, and accounting clerks. The red represents a staffing level of 51 to 79%, and this is our traffic clerks, PFA and PFS clerks, and our IT staff. Purple represents 50% and below, and we are currently operating with one administrative hearing officer, but expect that position to be filled soon. Altogether, we have 254 district court judges and employees. Kansas is divided into 31 judicial districts with a district court in each county. The 18th judicial district is comprised solely of Sedgwick County and has 28 elected district judges, 2 appointed administrative hearing officers, and 3 full-time equivalent judges pro tem. Okay, we're going to talk about the general fund. The Kansas district courts are the trial courts in Kansas. Created by the Kansas Constitution, the district courts have general original jurisdiction over all civil and criminal cases and provide justice to a variety of people in many ways. First of all, we provide a right to a fair trial for those accused of criminal and juvenile felonies and misdemeanors and appellate jurisdiction from municipal courts. Resolution of traffic tickets issued by Sheriff and Kansas Highway Patrol. Divorce, paternity, and domestic relations. Civil proceedings ranging from evictions and small claims to medical malpractice and trade secrets. Probate and administration of estates, guardianships, and conservatorships. Care of the mentally ill. Child need of care matters. Protection from abuse and protection from stalking, issuance of marriage licenses, formalizing adoptions, safeguarding court records and providing documents to public upon request, producing transcripts of court proceedings, supervising defendants and offenders to ensure compliance with our court orders. As you can see, the district court affects people's lives in many different ways. And we also have several challenges and opportunities before us. As Judge mentioned earlier, we have 3 new judicial positions that will begin in January of 2023. We continue collaboration with the DA, Sheriff, WPD to implement new statewide case management system, which is estimated now to go live in the fall of 2022. Maintain efforts to address the backlog of cases that accumulated during the COVID pandemic. Write grant for available Veterans Treatment Court funds and operate a meaningful Veterans Treatment Court. And explore additional specialty courts. The largest expenditure by far are the court-appointed attorney fees, and they account for 64% of our expenditures. Another 20% is spent on specific statutorily required items such as jury fees, psychological evaluations, interpreters, etc. The final 16% covers the operational costs for the 250 plus district court employees. This means every computer, phone, chair, desk, pen, and piece of paper, travel, training, file folder, file cabinet, judicial robe, counsel table, jury chair, etc. One of the court's core values is being good stewards of public funds, and I think we do an amazing job. The 18th Judicial District Court 2023 budget request is before you. As you can see, the 2023 target base is less than the 2022 revised budget and also less than the 2021 actual expenditures. Given that our target rate is less than our actuals and the challenges and opportunities we face, the district court is requesting additional funding in 3 areas. Judge Gehring had already spoken to you about decision package number 1, and our total request for that package is $875,000. So I'd kind of like to share a little bit about that. The Kansas statute and Constitution require that the district courts provide legal representation for indigent defendants, juveniles, persons facing incarceration, parties involved with child in need of care cases, and persons with mental illness. Further, in 1987, the Kansas Supreme Court held in Stephen v. Smith that appointed counsel were entitled to payment in sums as will fairly compensate the attorney at a fair rate which is not confiscatory, considering overhead and expenses. In 2017, the BoCC agreed to increase the hourly rate basis for the court-appointed attorneys to $70 per hour. 5 years later, the court finds itself in a position where attorneys are unwilling to perform at this rate. In 2020, the Board of Indigent Defense raised the hourly rate for defense work to $100 per hour. This rate will increase to $120 per hour in 2023. The district court is requesting that the local rate be increased to the same $100 an hour and that the additional year-end transfers be added to the base budget. This chart shows the relation between cases filed, cases with court-appointed attorneys, total amount of attorney fees, and the average amount paid per court-appointed case. You'll notice that even though the number of case filings have decreased, which is the blue line, the number of cases with court-appointed representation have increased, which is the red line. At the bottom, it shows that the amount paid per case has remained steady. This chart gives you more detail as to where the funds are spent in regards to each case type. And that total, if we're approved to raise that to $100 an hour, is a total cost of $574,000. This chart shows the amount of required year-end transfers to cover statutory fees, mainly attorney fees, for the past 5 years. A rough average of these transfers, plus the amount required to raise the hourly rate, brings us to the requested amount of $875,000. Decision package number 2 is for the increased funds for jury fees. As COVID cases decrease and the judicial system in Sedgwick County revives from the impact of the pandemic, the number of jury trials are expected to increase. Currently, there are approximately 2 to 3 jury trials each week, and that number is expected to increase to 4 to 5 trials per week and remain at that level. And the total request for decision package number 2 is $100,000. This chart shows the relationship between the number of jury trials held and the cost of jury fees. We are proud to show you that during COVID, we changed the way jurors are summoned and are now more efficient and cost-effective in their use and cost. And our last decision package is for $10,000 to send our clerk supervisory staff to training. Frequent turnover in the clerk supervision staff results in untrained supervisors making incorrect decisions on personnel matters, and employee utilization. One of the court's core values is investment. Value and develop our employees' diverse talents and initiative. Investing in our supervisory employees not only helps build loyalty and increased morale, but also greatly benefits the employees that they supervise. And this is just an overview of our decision packages. And the total that we are requesting is $985,000. Okay, moving on to the Office of the Court Trustee. Per KSA 20-3081, the employees, or 381, pardon me, the employees of the Court Trustee's Office are state employees and follow the Kansas court personnel rules. However, their paychecks and benefits are processed through the county. The Court Trustee's Office will reimburse Sedgwick County approximately $80,000 in 2023 for administrative charges. The Trustee's Office was previously divided into 2 areas of service, and now there is only one. The 18th Judicial District Court Trustee was previously under contract with the Kansas Department of Children and Families to provide child support establishment, enforcement, and financial services within Sedgwick County under the Title 4D of the Social Security Act. This contract ended in October of 2021. 19001-211 is no longer a valid fund and will cease to appear in budget presentations. The 13 employees in this office have an active caseload of approximately 5,300 cases. More than $30 million is collected through this office annually for the children of Kansas. There are no general fund tax dollars used for this program, and it is 100% self-supporting through user fees. Like the county, we believe in paying our employees a wage in line with competitive conditions. Our trustee employees have not had a wage adjustment or COLA in 5 years. We've included an 8% wage increase in our 2023 budget. And this is a recap of our division summary. As you can see, it's 3.8% less than our 2022 revised budget. And again, a recap of our decision packages for $985,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Joni. Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Al?
Thank you so much. So the three new positions, what's the county's responsibility for those positions? We have, I assume, support staff, but I didn't really see any details regarding that in this request.
So the state provides the funding for the costs of their salary and their benefits. The county would provide any of the desks, anything they need to operate while they're here, from their robes to their pens. You guys cover all of that.
Is there support staff as well? Go ahead.
In terms of the support staff, along with the 3 judges are 2 administrative assistants for the district judges. That comes from the state. 2 approved positions for court reporters. That comes from the state, assuming that we can find court reporters to hire. The only person that comes without a staff would be the district magistrate judge. And we have met yesterday, I think, sort of a commission amongst the judges to figure out where they go, and we'll try to find a docket for the magistrate that is not dependent on an administrative assistant, but may need to repurpose a court clerk to kind of do a dual task for the magistrate.
So to clarify, the 254 judges and employees that you mentioned earlier, are all of those salaries paid for by the state?
With the exception of one employee, and that is our mediation coordinator.
But so just to separate, I always talk about, how county does pay for a lot of things around that people see, and I always say the courthouse is paid for by county taxpayers, and the courtrooms, of course, air conditioning and lights and paper and pens and robes and all that. So we have some costs, but the salaries of the court system is a state obligation, so to speak, then.
It is, and a point of clarification in regards to the mediation coordinator, she is basically a self-funded position through the fees for our kids' first parenting classes.
You made on the one of the almost the very last of the presentation, you made a comment that you have not had a COLA, no type of increase in some period of time. These are the court trustees.
Correct.
Are these county employees?
They're a hybrid. They're kind of, the money comes from the fees that they generate from the collection. That money is sent from the Kansas Payment Center to the county. The county serves as our bank, for a little easy term, and they issue the checks, but you guys don't spend any money to pay the employees or pay for any of their supplies. They're self-funded.
So the numbers are presented here. You said it includes an 8.5% pay adjustment.
I believe it's an 8% that we're asking for.
Okay, so it's not shown on this chart here.
Let me pull that out. It would show in the 2023 requested budget.
Well, it's a smaller number. That's why I'm asking. 7.6% reduction.
We lost a higher paid employee through retirement, so I believe that accounts for the less money that we're spending in 2022.
Okay.
I'm kind of looking back to make sure
Phone a
I'm
friend.
saying that right.
I do that too.
Yeah.
So we do have the 27 pay periods in 22 that don't happen in 23. So
Okay.
that is a partial reason, but yes. Commissioners, if you look on page 391 of your book, it shows all of the personnel. And there is a column that says fund, where it says 110. Those are positions that are funded out of the county's general fund. And then you'll see pretty much everything else says 18th JUD, which means 18th Judicial District. And so those are the positions that are on the court trustees side of the staffing table. So as Joni explained, the money essentially passes through the county, but they're not subject to our personnel policies or anything like that. They are really a creature of the district court, if that makes any sense.
Okay, thank you. This is a question for the chief judge. I just wanted to ask, I know we got all bottlenecked with COVID and all that. Are we going to be able to climb out of that hole with this budget? Are we recovering our speedy trial concerns?
Well, we are recovering. The speedy trial concerns, the legislature has passed a moratorium on statutory speedy trial. That moratorium will expire in about a year and a half. I think that a conservative approach would be to assume that it won't be extended. And so our challenge is to position ourselves with the existing pending cases such that this doesn't create a problem for us in the 18th. So one of the things that we did last year with the preliminary hearing docket that's funded by ARPA money is to create space on dockets for the 10 trial judges to increase jury trials. We anticipate that will happen, hence the decision package for the jurors. And so, if I have anything to say about it, we will be as positioned as best we can to meet the challenge once the speedy trial moratorium is over with, and to eat away at the backlog of cases that accumulated. It's easy to create a backlog, very hard to get rid of it.
Yeah. And I've heard through the grapevine, you don't have to comment on this, but I've heard through the grapevine that some of the other districts across our state, they're not doing what we're doing here, and they're going to have a real problem.
I would put our numbers up against any other judicial district in the state.
I also noticed that the arbitration budget's not part of this. I'm surprised. I thought that would be part of the. Where is that?
So the Mediation Center is a
right.
part of the community development, community programs, and that'll be talked about during the finance portion of your hearings next week. That $8,000 that they get annually.
Let me just wrap up my comments and say I'm proud of you all. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Chairman Dennis, do you have anything? we're going to say that's no. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, next we'll have Tonya Buckingham, the Register of Deeds. We'll be on page 45 of your binders.
Welcome, Tonya.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Tonya Buckingham. I'm your Register of Deeds for Sedgwick County, and I'm here to present the 2023 budget. Our office currently has 19.5 FTEs, and all of these positions are funded through the general fund. And as you see in yellow, we have 2 FTE positions that have been held since, I believe, 2012. Our strategic plan is listed here. Customer service, all our employees within the office are cross-trained and can step in any area to help out when needed. This is extremely helpful in providing excellent customer service. Collaboration, we work with several departments, both internally and externally. Our military and discount card program enables us to help veterans and active military to file their DT-214s and obtain a county-issued discount card. Our passport program allows us to assist the public in getting their passports with the U.S. Department of State. Innovation. We are always looking for ways to enhance our current records management system. The Property Activity Alert is a way for property owners and other interested parties to receive alert messages by email when a document is recorded in our office and indexed with a specific name. We're also looking to upgrade this service and working with DIT for those that subscribe for this service to receive alerts via text. We also offer upfront scanning so that our walk-in customers can leave with their recorded document in the same day. Employee development. Our training area has created videos and training classes to make sure all information is streamlined and that all employees receive the same information. We are constantly refreshing our training to make sure all employees receive adequate training to be successful in their duties. And now I'd like to invite Kinley Ziering. She's our Chief Deputy, and she's going to come forward and talk about the 5-year horizon with our challenges and our opportunities.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kinley Ziering, Chief Deputy. For our technology, our online records go back to 1965. Our goal is to have all remaining records dating back to the 1800s online and available to the public. For our in-house records management system, we are working with DIT to create an RFI to see what's available for our office. Another project that we've been working with DIT is for customers to have the ability to pay online, for copies and certified copies. We hope to have that feature up and running very soon. One of our duties is to preserve our records, and we will continue to preserve and restore those books as needed. This year, turnover has been a huge concern of ours. We've had 2 seasoned employees leave our office to go to the private sector for more pay. However, we've been able to manage it as best we can because of our in-house training program.
Thank you, Kinley. The Register of Deeds budget for 2023 is $1,170,187. The Register of Deeds Technology Fund transfer since 2002 under KSA 28115A, our office has transferred a total of $5,838,816 in technology funds to a county fund designated for equipment or technological services relating to property records filed or maintained by Sedgwick County. And for the calendar year of 2022, the transfer will be $200,000. And that is the end of our presentation, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Howell?
I noticed that you have 4.5 trainers for 9 positions. Am I seeing that correct?
Well, the training program is not just for new hires, it's ongoing training.
And do you set the salary? I mean, are your salary levels set by HR? Okay.
Yeah.
Even though you're a elected official, you still have to, okay. Thank you.
And that training number changes. It depends on when someone gets hired in. You know, like right now we have, 2 new hires that are in there learning, and we'll bring in people that maybe need some retraining. So we're constantly training our employees.
Okay. Commissioner Meitzner?
Thank you, Chair. Tonya, I just wanted to say thank you. The few times that I need to refer a citizen to your office, the response has always been, I've experienced, has been spot on and very quick and very thorough. So I want to thank you for that. And then the other thank you is you're transferring back $200,000 to our, what fund would that be? In the technology fund? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't have very many departments give back money to our funds. So
Well,
thank you.
You're welcome. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Thanks again, Tonya.
And I would just reiterate that I know you're not obligated to do that, so we really appreciate any of those funds coming back and going into that technology. But we have one more question, Commissioner.
I am, thank you, Madam Chair. I am curious, so the source of that 200,000, where did that come from?
We collect recording fees per page, and every page collects $2 that goes to the technology fund.
Right. So we got a presentation from Lindsay the other day regarding the mortgage registration fees.
Yes.
And we've seen a huge reduction, if you will, in that, especially in that 1 year when there was a multi-billion-dollar property sold.
Right.
Transferred.
Right.
So did you used to transfer a lot more because of the previous law, and you're transferring less each year than we used to as a consequence of that mortgage?
The mortgage tax doesn't have any effect on collecting money for the technology fund.
Oh, okay.
Because that is a per-page fee and not a tax fee.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
And are those fees set by you, or are they set by?
It's a KSA statute, yes.
All right. And again, if you didn't want to transfer those funds, what else could you use those for?
You could leave them within your department and use it for anything that's technologically related. You can't just use it to purchase anything. There's actually rules for it. So maybe restoring our books, we use our technology funds for that. Anything that's technology related, even preserving the records, we actually use it for that. So
is there other funds that you're not, I'm just curious, if there's you're retaining some of the money and transferring what you think is surplus, so to speak, how much are you guys retaining that you're not transferring over?
it depends on every year. Like right now, we have, I don't know exactly the dollar amount that's in there now. I think we were working on a budget for it, but it can go up to, $700,000 or $800,000. So we just have to sit down and look and see what kind of projects we're going to do in our office, and then plan ahead and save for, like right now we're looking at an RFI for a records management system possibly in the future. And that's part of our 5-year horizon plan. So we have to kind of save for that, and there's several books that we need to get repaired. So it's just a matter of planning ahead and then realizing that we have this extra money that we should transfer over to the county.
And so when the transfer happens to county, where does that money end up in our budget? And do we have some discretion, or are we also restricted, so to speak?
I think that would be a Lindsay. Right, Lindsay?
Yes, ma'am. I'm delighted to take that
Yes.
question. And thank you for $200,000.
You're welcome.
So, yes, because it is, the source is the technology fund for the Register of Deeds office, we are bound by those same rules. So it goes into an actual county technology fund. It's Fund 237. We will put that revenue in there, and then typically it goes toward a portion of tax system maintenance. But we have in the past also used it for the digital oblique imagery flight. That's done for the appraiser's office.
Would that potentially be used this year for the mailing that we're going to send out, the postcard that we have to, or the mailing for the property tax?
So I believe the state law actually specifies that it's state general fund, county general fund, but I'll verify that. Even if it was not, we could probably get away with that because of the real and personal property. But from what I'm seeing, since the state will be reimbursing us this year and next for our mailers, I don't necessarily see a reason to try and apply this funding
Can we
here.
also reserve this money, not spend it right away? We can hold it up and spend it years in the future if we want to.
Yes, that is something we could do, but then, of course, we still have to find a funding source for that tax system maintenance, and so that would just be a larger impact to the county general fund.
I know that, typically at least the treasurer and the register of deeds both typically hand over. I assume this has the same restrictions apply to both funds, I assume.
So there is a clerk and a treasurer tech fund. Each of those offices has a tech fund as well. The register of deeds get $2, those each get $1. Those have the exact same restrictions. Now, when you talk about the treasurer's auto license fund and that balance that comes over at year end, that's statutorily driven. The state law says if there is any cash left in that auto license fund at the end of the year, it must come back to the county's general fund by June 1st the following year. That's a completely different thing than what these tech funds are.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, again, thank you for the money. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
And by the way, I do think your office does a tremendous job. Thank you for all you do. And
Thank you. We try.
thank you.
Thank you both.
Commissioners, our last presentation today is from County Councilor Mike Papoon. It will be on page 33 of your binder.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Mike Papoon, County Councilor. This should be brief. I got chastised in the other previous hearing about going too long and reading from my PowerPoint, so this is going to be the 30,000-foot review. First of all, I'd like to thank our budget analyst, Elizabeth Thornbrew. Very helpful. Alicia Madison, my office manager, is also in here. She basically puts together this presentation as well, working with Elizabeth. Very helpful, not just for this, but all year long. Turning to our mission, there's our mission statement. Basically, in all honesty, our office budget doesn't change that much from year to year. We have 4 programs: administration, general legal services, our Sedgwick County Court, and then the money we use for outside counsel. Budget's always about $1.7 million, as we'll see in a minute. Changes very little. That's the structure of our office. Our Deputy Patricia Parker, who also oversees a number of the attorneys. Assistant County Counselor Justin Wagler also has some supervisory responsibility. And we have currently a vacant Assistant County Counselor position, which we think we're going to be filling pretty quick. And we have an administrative support staff position vacant, but we're in pretty good shape staffing-wise from the county. That's what the budget people come up with on distributing our 7 salaries. Come out of different, they spread our salaries among different programs. So I'm sure there's somebody can explain it, but I can't. But anyway. We have a strategic plan. These are the one aggressively representing our clients. These are all the cases that we handled last year in 2021. See all the lawsuits, employment-related claims, Board of Tax Appeals, and so on. And these are under our strategic goal number 2, providing cost-effective legal services. These are the cases we actually disposed of last year, number of claims, number of lawsuits, and so on. Our third goal is to be up to date on current legal authorities through continuing legal education, having great resources like Westlaw, our online legal resources. We've really gone away and cut down on the number of books that we have in our library and the number of written resources we have. Cut that significantly over the past couple of years because the online computer legal research products are so good now. And we try to keep up, of course, and help the county on tracking legislation, interpreting legislative issues in Topeka, not only just to keep us abreast of the law, but to also, of course, help the county. Goal 4 is to enforce county codes through the county court system. County court brought in $40,000 in fines and fees last year. Doesn't begin only about a third of what it costs to run a county court. But if we don't have a county court system, there's no way to enforce the kinds of laws, resolutions that you enact there on the bench. And so we feel it's pretty important to have a county court. And here's our budget. In 2023, the budget we have by program show administration's going down by 7.72%. General legal services going down. County court is up 13.6%, but that's primarily just an accounting deal because we moved. I think county court judges used to be paid under administration. Now they're being paid under the county court budget, actually, so that's why that's gone up. And then our outside counsel has remained the same for an overall reduction of 1.32%. I understand that the reduction is primarily based on the fact that there are 25 pay periods instead of 27 pay periods as last year, as I was told by our CFO at our...
There are 27 instead of 26.
Okay, 27. I know that there's... Anyway.
This is why you're the lawyer.
But that's our budget, and actually it's gone down a little this year, and I'm happy to answer any questions about why we use outside counsel or why our budget's what we do in the office. But obviously our office is bound to represent the county councilor's job duties are outlined in Charter Resolution 46, which was chartered out of a number of statutes dealing with the county councilor. Our office does a lot of things other than just handling lawsuits. We handle hundreds of contracts. We give numerous written and oral legal opinions to county, not only the county commission, but of course all county manager and all his departments and department heads, and attend meetings on behalf of the county commissioners, do trainings, and so forth. But anyway, I am happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, Mike, just for my two things. The outside counsel, I know it's an estimate probably, but is that consistent, like $200,000 a year? Is that what we put in it?
That's what they've been, and Lindsay can jump in any time. They've been doing that. I can tell you right now, we're not going to be within $200,000 this year. Some years, we have very little control over that in our office. That's going to deal primarily with the number of claims and lawsuits we get. Of course, our office can hopefully reduce those in some cases, but in a lot of other cases, we can't. And but it just that's one thing we have very little control over. We try to handle as much in-house as we can. We have an attorney that's more of a litigation specialist, even though he's actually been doing a lot of the CARES and the ARPA funding and those kinds of things too. But we try to handle as much as we can in-house, but the more complex litigation, timely litigation that takes a lot of support staff, we have to use outside counsel, and that's all going to depend on how many claims we have, how many lawsuits.
Right. And then the settlement that comes from a different fund? That's not out of Mike's budget?
Right.
That was the second
Right,
question.
that comes from the risk management budget, and that'll be another one we talk about next week in the finance presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just, it's interesting, the county court cost in 22, $109,000, in 23, request $123,000, but settlements or fines, whatever collected is $40,000?
That's what and again, the reason that jumped up, Commissioner, is because I think previously, or at least in 2022, they were taking we pay for the pro tem judges that oversee, that preside in county court. And we have 3 pro tem judges when we're fully staffed. And they just merely moved those salaries out of administration, which showed a decrease in 7%, and then added them to county court, which saw a 13% increase. But yeah, it doesn't pay for itself. It's
I'm also comparing 21 versus 22 and 23. I mean, that's just the way the charts are laid out there, but
okay.
I guess I would make one point, that is, you hear sometimes that governments are somewhat very aggressive because they make money in the court system. This is clearly not true. It costs about $2 for every $1 we take in. I'm sorry, $3 for every $1 we take in. So we're actually, about 2/3 of the money involved in county court is a loss to the taxpayers. So I guess my only takeaway is it's to remedy situations. It's really not about even recovering the cost of what it costs to adjudicate a case. It's just simply a loss to the taxpayer to get a remedy started, so to speak, on whatever the issue is, right?
Right, we use it a lot just to, shape. We want people to follow your resolutions, whether it's parking, animal control, whether it was, during COVID, we had some restrictions there that were enforced through county court. We're not real aggressive. A lot of the people in county court can't afford a lot of the fines. They may have numerous tickets. We work a lot with people to work within what they can afford and paying their fines and such. But at the same time, it brings in a significant amount of money as well.
You mean the $40,000?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just to make another little point about that, it averages less than $150 per case. So again, I know we have fines up to $500 in some cases, but we're not really levying those types of fines most of the time. It's actually less than $150 most of the time. Which, by the way, is a reminder, we do have a fee schedule we're supposed to be reviewing at some point and bring that back to the BoCC. That's just another unfinished business regarding the shooting range issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, that's my only question. I think I just want to say once again, you're doing a great job. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Yes,
Cruz.
Thank you for the entertaining afternoon.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your candor here today. I do have a question for you, Lindsay, so I don't have a question for you.
Okay.
If you need to take a rest because of all your humor. So in 2019, when we started, our employees were 14% behind market rate.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the number that they are today?
I know that Sheena will probably present that to you as a part of the compensation wrap-up that we'll do here in a couple weeks. I know some areas did receive some improvement through the reclass process, but others did not. Because the reclass obviously wasn't based on market, it was based on paying them for the work they were doing. So I am certain we can get additional information for you, although I would say it's going to be challenging just because the labor market is changing so much. Month to month right now.
Sheena's like totally agreeing with you in the back. You can't see her.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That makes me
Adamantly
feel
shaking her head.
validated. I'm glad. Sheena, do you want the mic? Okay.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Looks like we're wrapping up quite a bit early, so that's exciting. Give you guys a little bit of time back in your afternoon. Is there anything else that we need to discuss while we're here?
Check with the attorney. I texted him. I know he's still on.
Okay, Chairman Dennis, do you have anything to add here at the end?
I don't, thank you. Hopefully I get feeling better. I can come back and join you.
Well, we hope you feel better soon too, and we will see you as soon as you do. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.